The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? Thank you very much for turning up. Can I just check? Can you hear me okay? Can you see my screen? You should see a empty funnel. Sorry, not empty. Funnel with one page in it called coffee. Okay, I've got just so you can't see the screen. Let me see if I can just do something about that. Okay, is that better? Do we have the screen now? Excellent. Nothing like a bit of technical difficulties to kick one of these things off. Okay, so sorry about that. Let's get going now. So, like I was saying, thank you very much for turning up. This is our regular getting started webinar. The idea here is that basically myself and Dan, who is currently also sitting on this call, we are going to show you. Yep, sorry, I'm just talking over you there. Very rude.
That's all right. Just saying hi to everyone.
Yeah, this is what you get when it's a twofer. So yeah, we're going to be showing you how to build a simple funnel, like soup to nuts in Convertri. It'll be a lead funnel, and that means it's going to be a page that looks a bit like this. So a bit like this page here. And the idea is when we are done, we will have a page like this live. Someone will be able to opt in through the form that we've set up. They will be added to our autoresponder, and then they will be automatically redirected to our thank you page, where they will be able to download the lead magnet that we promised them. So it'll be the complete thing. Someone comes in, signs up, you get the information, they get their report completely hands off. And we'll be setting this up right here, right now. After that, Dan is going to be showing you some of his favorite tricks with the editor to get it all working smoothly. He'll be showing you stuff like how to set up, how to do alignments really easily, how to set the page up for mobile. And once we've done that, we'll just go into a general Q&A session where you can ask anything you want about us, about Convertri, and indeed about anything else. Feel free to ask any question. We will do our best to answer. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Neil Merton. I'm one of the founders of Convertri. This is our about page on the website, and I am the one in that rather stunning hat. You can see me on the on our little team board as well. That's me there under Chief Propagandist. Dan's here as well. Find him down there. You might have, if you've been around in the group, or if you've contacted the support desk, you might have spoken to Dan already. He does a great job helping people out with all the problems that they come up with Convertri. At the moment, Robert, I am working with, this is an agency account, but everything you're going to see, you're going to be able to do on any Convertri account. I'm not using any agency-specific features. So everything that's here, whether you've got standard, whether you've got pro, whether you've got agency, you're going to be able to do exactly what I'm showing you right here. Okay, does anyone have any questions before we get started? Cool, I think we're good to go. Rodolfo saying, let's do it. I entirely agree. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to make our page. You can see I'm in like a relatively fresh funnel here, and I'm going to make my first page by clicking on the New Page button in the top right. This will bring up Convertri's template selector, and you can see there's quite a lot of templates to choose from here. Like there's really a fairly large selection. Like everything down to about here is on every account, and then there's a few that if you've got a pro account, if you've got an agency account, there's a few more here to choose from. If you're using a template, you can click on the preview button to have a look at it, like before you actually load it into the editor. So you can see, like, is this the kind of thing I want? Is it not? I'm not going to use a template for this demonstration. I'm going to build a page completely from scratch for you. And the reason for that is it's, I mean, first of all, to be honest, I just find it a bit more fun. But also it's just an easier way of showing you like everything Convertri can do. Because I think one of the great strengths of the platform is what you can get from an entirely blank canvas, because it is because you get so much flexibility with it. So we're going to click on create a page from scratch, and I'm just going to call that opt-in, and we'll hit OK. And you see this has created our page, at the moment entirely blank, and we click on edit page, and that will take us into the editor. So here we are, we have an entirely blank canvas here, and we are going to turn this into something that looks kind of like this. Can I just check before I get going, like how much experience do you have with Convertri at the moment? Like everyone here, do you, like if we said on like a scale from like 0 where you've barely opened the app to 10 where you like think you're an expert, whereabouts do you rate yourself? Yeah, cool. I've got a 0 from Sheila, 1 from Robert, 0 from Abik. I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing some of these names, by the way. 5 from Rodolfo. Just as a 7, which is very good. 4 from John, 0 from Eva, 5 from Ronnie. So yeah, there's a big, there's quite a big spectrum here. So I'll try and make sure this is all relevant to everyone. Obviously, if there's something you see me do, you're not quite sure how I did it, like you didn't manage to quite follow it the first time, or something do let me know. I will do my best to and slow down a bit. I can show you again. I'll be keeping half an eye on the questions as we do the presentation. So if you do have a question about a thing I'm doing, then please do ask. I will try and deal with it as they come up. I think only thing I'd ask, if you've got a question that isn't directly related to what we're doing at the time, just do me a favor and leave that until the general question and answer session at the end, just so we don't get too sidetracked. We will answer the question just after the demonstration's done. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to add an image, because the first thing we want is this big image backdrop, which is the big standout thing on this page. So to do that, we will drag on the image element from the toolbar here. Now you can see here that I've already got this image. It's already loaded into the media gallery, basically from past demos like this that I've done. I'm actually going to delete this so you can see that you're going to be able to upload any image you want. So we'll get rid of that, and I'll show you how that works. You don't have to use your own images if you don't want. We also have Pixabay built in as an API. Pixabay is a really cool site for finding Creative Commons, so entirely free to use images. And they've got a huge selection. Someone want to give me a give me a word, something we can search for. Let's see what we can find. Okay, we've got a baseball. Baseball from Ronnie. Let's see what we can find for baseball. So yeah, so there's a huge amount of selection here. And they're a mix of, you can see there's some like cartoony avatar things that you might like take a little bit of and just use them like as a character on your site. You've got images like the like this baseball here. You've got the vector silhouettes, and you've got like actual like high quality images as well. There's a huge amount to choose from. It's a really cool site. I really like it. And in fact, the picture I'm going to use did actually come from Pixabay to begin with. If we type woman in here, then I'm pretty certain that's the search I used. Anyway, you'll find it somewhere on this list, and you can see there's lots of options there. Maybe use Slim or something like that instead. But I'm going to use the one. I'm not going to get it from the API. I'm going to use the one that I downloaded. And the reason for that is that when you actually go to Pixabay and download the image, you can get a far higher resolution version than you can, or than they let you get with the API. So I'm just going to take that image, I'm just going to drag it onto the media gallery like that, and you can see that is there uploading. Now this is a big chunky image here. You can see it's like 5,000 pixels by 3.5. The actual file is something like 6 megabytes. So it's far bigger than you would normally want on a web page. But because Convertri does so much optimization work to make the images load incredibly quickly, you can use like basically whatever resolution you want, and the experience will be absolutely fine. And you'll be able to see that when we get this page live and load it up, you'll be able to see how fast it goes despite the size of the image. And because Convertri does all that, I tend to basically, certainly for the big images like these, I tend to go for the highest quality I've got available. So we now have our image on the canvas. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it full width by clicking this button in the Quick Actions toolbar. And now I'm just going to increase the size to what I want. I'm going to use the top drag handle and drag that up a bit to like about there. And the bottom drag handle, I'm going to take down a bit. Now I'm doing this entirely by eye. Like I don't necessarily have to. Like if I had like the measurements of the page, then I could just type in like the specific height of the image that I wanted in the positioning panel. But I'm not going for a 100% like accurate clone. I'm just going for a page that is kind of like this one. So here I'm just like adjusting how much the woman do I want to be able to see on the page. Like if I want a bit more, I drag it down a bit. If I want a bit less, I'll just put it up. And personally, I think that's all right. Like that's a fairly standard screen width. So I think that'll do fine. Robert's asking what the guidelines indicate. It's a really good question. So these guidelines here, you can see these two cyan lines, vertical lines on the left and right, and you can see this horizontal one running along the page. And what these are basically showing the width of the page. These are set by default to 960 pixels. Now, Convertri will publish the entire thing, but this will show you how much you can see on, like this is a fairly aggressive small monitor. Like anything within these guidelines is going to be visible on pretty much any screen. You can actually afford to widen this out quite a lot, and in fact you can. If we go to the display menu, you can see the guideline width there is set to 960. Maybe we can change it to like 1280 to build a wider page. So it just helps you keep your elements all within like the certain central width. Oops. And what happened there was I pressed backspace while I still had the image selected, because I'm an idiot. But it's okay, because we've got an undo feature, so you can just get it back. That's how you can tell this stuff is live. So But if you keep all your elements within those guidelines, then you can be sure they're going to be visible on pretty much any monitor. 960 was a good width to aim for when we launched the app like 4.5 years ago. These days monitors are just bigger. They've got better resolutions. So let's say you can go up to like 1280 and be absolutely fine. The horizontal line here, that's a rough estimate of the fold line. And again, this is fairly aggressive. It's designed for like as small as monitors are likely to be. So if you're thinking like an 11 or 13-inch laptop, anything above that line is going to be visible like without scrolling when someone loads the page. Anything below that line, someone might have to scroll to see the content. So if you're building a form, for instance, like we're going to be doing, you're going to want to make sure like at least a bit of it is above this fold line so your users can see that there's something there they've got to interact with, and it's not all like buried like down at the bottom somewhere. So next thing we're going to do is, if we just go back to our demo page, we are going to put these little color panels at the top and the bottom. Now these are really just aesthetic. It's just a design feature that I quite like. Now we're going to put these on. We're going to drag on a panel element. And again, we're going to make that full width. We're going to drag that right to the top of the page. And we're going to use this bottom drag handle, and we're just going to drag that up until we get to the top of that image. And you can see as we approach that, you have the hot pink like snap line that it's approaching. So we can just get it there precisely. Again, we don't have to measure it, it'll just kind of snap into place. Now to change the color of this panel, we go to the background tab in the properties panel. And we click on this background fill option. And this will give you the color picker. And at the moment, it's like the default is this like pale gray, like fairly neutral, fairly like non-distinct. But you can change it to a more like arresting color just by dragging around this little circle. And you can see as I'm doing this, it's actually changing on the page. So you can see whatever color you've got, you can see how it's going to look. You don't have to like select the color, hit select, and then see how it's going to look. You can adjust it to whatever you want. Now we were going for a kind of like orangey beige, so I'm going to drag the spectrum up to like there. And I think we want to be more like up here somewhere. And again, I'm not trying to be like completely precise. If I wanted to be completely precise, I could just take the RGB values or the hex code, and I could just enter that directly in here. And then Convertri would just match it to that color. I'm just going completely by eye just to see roughly what I think looks good. Because that's how I design on Convertri. Like I'm not a particularly good designer. Like our lead designer at Convertri, a guy called Matteo, like he would say there is absolutely no place for the word particularly in that sentence. I'm just not a good designer at all. But with Convertri, I don't really have to be, because I don't need to know design principles. I can just play around with things until they look good. So we're going to go with that color there. John's asking, will we be covering design for mobile? Yep, we'll be turning this page into a completely mobile version as well. So you'll be able to see how that works too. So to make the bottom panel, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clone, idiot child. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this backing panel by clicking on the clone button in the toolbar up here. And you see that has given us a complete copy, so I don't have to go around like finding the exact same color again. And we'll just drag that to the bottom. And again, use the snap line, snap that into place. And we'll drag this one down to be a little bit bigger because we're going to stick a link in there. So we now have the full backdrop of our page. And the next thing we're going to build is this panel with all the actual page content in it. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to drag another panel on. Again, exactly the same as before, panel element from the toolbar. And we're going to get it roughly the right size, roughly the right shape. Again, like when you're building pages like this, I wouldn't worry about like positioning things precisely at this point. Just get all your elements on the page and then you can adjust them later. As you can see what I'm going to do in a minute, I'm just going to throw on a load of text elements, enter the text. And after I've done that, it's going to look rubbish because we won't have aligned anything, but we're going to be able to snap everything into place really quickly. And it's easier just to get all the content on there first. So first we're going to do is drag on a text element. Again, that's from the top of that toolbar there. And I'm going to type in the headline. So 7 top tips for slimming without starving. And you see what I'm doing there, I'm just typing, like I've clicked in the text box, you can see like a little cursor flashing there, and I'm just typing straight onto the page. Not going to do any formatting for that yet, just going to stick it in there. And you can see now as well, now I've got this panel here selected, like this gray container one. Because this text element is entirely contained, it's got a little pink dashed outline so you can tell it's entirely inside it. And what that means is if I move the gray panel now, then the text box inside is going to come with it. So you don't have to move each element individually. You can just pick up a section, drag it, everything moves with it. Thomas is asking, once you set a header or footer, can you set it up so that it automatically duplicates on every page if you want? Yes, you can. That is a feature we added a few months ago. You can use shared headers and footers across the whole funnel. That's not part of this demo specifically, but once we've done with this, I'll show you how to do that in like the general Q&A section. And we'll drag on another text element. Now this one's going to be for the body text, and that was something like find it hard to stick to a diet. Don't worry, so do we. So how you two can without needing to starve yourself for 20 hours a day. And I don't think that was exactly what the other page had, but there was something like it. Okay, now we're going to need a couple of other bits of text because we need a little bit of anti-spam text below the form, and we had a little bit of text at the top, which is like enter your best details below. And just to show you again on the these containment outlines, if I move this text element, so that's like a bit outside, so it's not fully contained. Now when I click on this backing panel, you can tell that only these two elements are contained and this one isn't. So that's like a fairly easy way to see what's like the structure of your page, to see what's inside an element and what isn't. And we need another one of those. I'll just stick that down the bottom somewhere. Your details are safe with us. And if you're being observant here, you'll notice that possibly the most controversial thing I'm going to do on this call is I put 2 spaces after a period, and I'm not even sorry. That's okay. So now we've got the text in the on the page. We've got the text in the element. Now we need to make it look good, and you can do this like in each individual element. You can highlight your text, and you can choose like different fonts. You can choose different font sizes and font colors. But I prefer to do this through default styles rather than like element by element. And the reason for this is because it makes it easy to change everything on the page at once. So to set up a default style, we're going to go into the page menu in the top bar up here. And you can see there is a default text styles tab second on the list. And here we can change the font, we can change the size. So if we say change that to, we're going to use Lato, I think. I'm going to keep the font size as 16. I think that's fine, and the color as black. But I am going to up the line spacing a bit. I'm going to make that 1.8 because I like quite widely spaced text on a page. I like having quite a lot of white space in there because I just think it makes it easier to read. So that's for our basic paragraph style. And you can see all the boxes have now updated. And this is quite useful because it means that if we're looking at this, like if we're looking at our page and we're like, you know what, maybe I don't like Lato, maybe I want to try something else. We can go back to page, we can go back to the default style, and we can choose, what should we have? Economica. Let's have Economica. And hit done. And now we can see how the page will look if we just update all the text. This is quite useful if you're editing, one of our templates, like if you quite like the look, but you've got like maybe a certain font you want to use, you can just update the default style and have everything change. Although we don't really want to use Economica because that one turns out is really hard to read. So let's go back to Lato. Now we can set up default styles for a range of different types. We've got styles for the paragraph and 2 headings, also the hyperlink. So if we use the heading 1 style for our main headline, for this one I'm going to use Noto Sans. And I'm actually going to take the font size down a little bit because we're in a fairly small panel there. But I'm going to keep the line spacing for this one. I'm going to keep that at 1.2 because it's going to be a headline, like that just adds a bit of impact, adds a bit of punch to it. And yes, we do want it centered. So we'll click done. And at the moment, nothing on the page has changed because none of these boxes are currently using the H1 style. To adjust this, we'll highlight the text in our headline box. We'll go to More in the text toolbar, click H1, and that is now using the style that we set up. One final bit of edit we want to do to this text. We want to take the size down on these boxes, the enter your best details and the we will never spam you, because we don't want those like the same. We don't want them to be as obvious as the body text. So let's take it down to 12 and we'll center that. And I'm doing this one actually in the text box rather than using a default style because I don't want all the text to look like this. Like I just want these bits. So, yep. So we have our text and now we need our form. To add this, we go to the Form Elements menu on the toolbar over here. And if we click this, you can see the range of different form elements you can have. Now, we're just doing a fairly simple form on this page. We are going to have a first name field. And we're going to have an email field. Again, just throwing them on the page at the moment. And we are going to need a submit button. Now, you can collect whatever information you want. So we've got like first name, last name, and email predefined, but you're not limited to that. If you want to collect anything else, you can just throw on a custom text input and set like the bit of information that you want to collect. You can also have larger text boxes. You can add checkboxes. You can use radio buttons and drop downs. There's quite a lot of variety there. You can build quite a lot of stuff into your form. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to adjust the placeholder text. Now the actual text itself I think is fine. What I want to adjust is the look of it. You can change it if you want. Like if we don't want that to say first name, we just want that to say name. We can change the placeholder text in the properties panel. So if we just delete first there, you can see it's updated to name up here. I'm going to keep it as first name. Now for my font family here, I'm going to go with Lato again, so it matches my main text. Font weight can stay as normal, but I'm going to take the size down. I think about 14. Yeah. And then we'll do the exact same thing on the other field. On the button, you can do the same thing. You can change the text, you can change the text style. So if we go into button settings, then the mode is submit, which means when you click the button, it'll submit the form. That's what we want. But we want the label to change. I'm going to make that into download now. And for the font family on this one, I think I'm actually going to use Noto Sans again. This one I'm matching with the headline. Again, just because like this is the actual call to action button, the submit, we want to stand out. So it just gives it a bit more power to match the headline. I'll make it bold as well. Okay, so now we've got all our elements in the panel. Now we want to arrange them nicely. Let's just see what people have been saying. Yeah, that's right, Ryan. Economica is definitely slimming. Oh, Sheila, sorry you have to leave. Don't worry about it. We are recording the call. This will go up in the knowledge base with the others, so you'll be able to catch it up later. I hope you found it useful what you did see. So now we're going to update the positions of all the elements within this panel. And the easy way to do this, like again, we could do it by eye if we wanted. You saw Convertri snap lines before, so if we want, we could just pick that up. We can move it around until like it snaps into a place we want. But you don't need to do this stuff by eye because that can get a bit tiresome, like especially when you've got a lot to do. So what we're going to do with this is we are going to select this backing panel here. So you can see we've got the gray panel selected. You can see all the stuff inside it with those pink outlines. And we are going to go into Convertri's alignment options. And you can see there's a whole set of alignment options we can use here. The one we want here is center align. And that will center align all the elements inside the container. So that's just like snapped into place very nicely. We do want the form spaced out a bit more. I think that would be better. So what we're going to do first of all, I'm going to use the arrow keys and I'm just going to nudge down the "We will never spam you" text. Again, just so it's in a position I quite like. We'll drag the submit button. We'll move that down so we get a bit more space. So yeah, something like that. And now we want to get these form elements all nicely spaced. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to hold down the Shift key. See, I've got the submit button selected already, and I'm going to select the other two form elements. So holding down the Shift key, click the other elements you want to select. So you've multi-selected all three of them. And we're going to go back to the alignment menu. And we're going to go with distribute vertically. And what this will do is evenly space these three elements like between the top and the bottom. So we click distribute vertically, and email is now like smack in the middle of first name and download. Don't have to position it by eye. It's just like Convertri just puts it there for you. And now we can have a look at that, and I might just nudge the enter your best details down a little bit. But I think they're spaced fairly nicely now. So final thing we need to do to this panel. If we have a look again at the one on the demo page, you can see it's got these light beveled corners and it's got this slight transparency effect. So we're going to add both of those things in now. For the corners, do those first of all. Again, with the container element selected, in the properties panel, we're going to go to borders. We're going to switch this toggle on, which means every border will have the same radius, so the same corner that we give it. And I'm going to give it 20. Now I've gone for 20 because I've done this demo quite a lot. I know that's a good number. But it's very easy to experiment. You can adjust up and down. Again, you can see as we move it up, you can see the effects it happens on the page. So like I said, you don't have to be some kind of smart designer who can look at it and go, yeah, that needs a 50 pixel corner. That's going to look really good. You just move up and down until you get an effect that you like. And I quite like 20. And the final thing we're going to add is the transparency effect. So we're going to go to background. Again, at the moment, this is like our default pale gray. I'm going to adjust it so it's pure white. And to add the transparency, we take this slider on the right, and this controls the opacity of the panel. So if we drag it all the way down to the bottom, it's entirely see-through, which, I mean, obviously we don't want because we can't read anything now. And as we drag it up, it gets more and more opaque. So I'm going to go for like 75. And we'll select that. And that's now looking pretty good, I think. So last thing we've got to do for the look of the desktop version of the page is we've got to add the privacy policy link down the bottom. And just stick that another text element on there. And again, I'm using the snap lines to center it in the page. You can see you get this cyan snap line rather than the hot pink ones when it's in like the precise page center. So that I find fairly easy to do by eye, just because the snap line is there. But again, you don't need to. One of the alignment options up here is just like immediately align to page center, so you don't have to like drag it yourself. And in here, we're going to stick privacy policy. And you can see it's using the font and the line height that we set as part of the default style. Because we set it as the default style, it's just doing that automatically now. And we're going to center the text. And now we want to turn this into a link. So I'm just going to highlight that and click on the hyperlink button up there. And we'll just enter in our link here. Now I'm going to enter in the link for Convertri's privacy policy. Obviously, if you were making this page yourself, you would enter the link for your own. But I'm just typing this in. And we're going to have it open in a new tab. Because if basically like someone's come to an opt-in page like this, if they have clicked on something like your privacy policy, you don't really want them directed away. Like it's far better, I think, to have that open in a new tab. Let them review it if they want, but make sure your main page stays open so they don't have to navigate back to it. And we'll hit save there. And this is now like the desktop version of the page is entirely done. We still need to wire up the form. We still need to make the mobile version. Those things we will be doing very shortly. But does anyone have any questions on what we've seen so far? Like, have you been able to follow it okay? Has anything come up? Okay, Zahid says it's looking good. Ronnie's saying, very cool, you can just test bevel and colors and so on. Yeah, I think it's really cool as well. It's I don't know, it just makes, I find it makes designing so much easier when I can just see the effect it's having. Cool. I think everyone is following that so far. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to move on to the mobile page. So Dan's going to be going over like mobile optimization in a bit more detail in his section. But for this page, what we're going to do is if we click on the mobile button right at the top right, so see where we've got design for desktop selected at the moment. If we click on design for mobile, you see this is the mobile version that Convertri automatically creates. Now you don't have to stick with this. Like if you want to move elements around, like you can do that if you want. Like if you want the I don't know, let's say maybe we want the body text at the top and the headline in the middle because we're kind of weird like that. Like if we want to do that, we can just adjust all these elements. We can adjust the positions however we want. And if we go back to the desktop page, you'll see like this hasn't been affected at all because the positions of these elements are entirely separate. Now the elements themselves aren't entirely distinct. Like if we change the property of an element, so if we decided like we wanted this to be red, say we change the color to red, that's going to change to red on mobile as well, because that is the property of an element. But the position and whether or not it's shown at all, that is something you can adjust however you want, and you don't have to worry about the desktop page being affected. So let's just put that back because we don't really want a red headline. We want a black one. Now we've got the remobilize button up here, and what that does is if you've made a load of changes to your page and you decide like you want to undo them, like here we don't really want the headline after the body text, we can hit the remobilize all, and that just goes back to Convertri's default version. Now this page in general I think is fine, but one thing I am going to do is I'm going to take down the size of this text a bit. The default font scaling is 150%, and that's because mobile pixels tend to be smaller than desktop pixels. And if it's at 150%, it means that the text on a mobile screen is about the same size as it would appear on a desktop screen. But in this case, I think it'll look better if it's a bit smaller. So to do that, I'm going to go to page, and again, this is part of the default text style. And in this paragraph style, we're going to change that. We're going to take that down. We're going to take that down to 120. So we'll hit done. Go back to the mobile view, and you can see this text has now shrunk. And not only has this text shrunk here, because we did it as part of the default style, the enter your best details and the we will never spam you, that's also updated. These are also at 120 now. This headline is using a different style. This is using the heading 1 style, so that's still at 150. But that's something that in this case I actually want, because again, it's a headline. I want it to stand out. I want it to be big and bold when they hit the page. But that has given us our mobile page. So we're going to save that. So the page itself is done. All we need to do is wire up the form. And we're going to do that after we've built our thank you page. And the reason we're going to do it after that is going to become apparent very soon. So let's go back to the funnel. Let's take another swig of water. Okay, so our starting point for our thank you page. Again, we could build a page entirely from scratch again, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clone this page here and use that as our starting point. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One of them is that it lets me show you how to do it. So I went to the three-dot menu on the page card, then selected more, and you can see that clone is an option here. So I'll just click that, I'll call it thank you. And we have now a complete copy of this page. And so that's showing you how to clone the page. Also because it's quicker. And also because this is like, if you were going to use one of our templates rather than build your page entirely from scratch, then this is like similar to how that would work, because our templates are all built entirely in Convertri. Like there's no hard coding in there. Like anything on there you can change, you can mess around with exactly as you're seeing me do on this page right now. So what we want for our thank you page is, obviously we don't want all these elements. Like we're not going to need the form, and we're not going to need all the text. So I'm going to, again, I'm holding down Shift and I'm clicking on the elements we don't need. And I'm just going to hit the backspace key and I'm going to get rid of them. And I'm going to change the text in here to something like that. And this text will say, I mean, we basically would just want to tell them to click the button. So like, click on the button below to get your free copy of 7 tips for slimming without starving. Now we're just going to adjust you up a bit. And again, move the button up. Just adjust the size of the panel. Yeah, and you can see the pink line going across the page at the moment. That shows that I've aligned the center of this panel with the center of that middle element. So that's quite a good guide for the size. And we'll move you down here so it's a bit more central. And we'll just get all these aligned in the center of the element again. So go back to the alignment options, center align, and there we go. Actually, no, I think I might shift that up a bit again, just nudge it upwards with the arrow key. And yeah, I think that looks a bit better. So much of this is just me looking at it and going, you know what, I think that'd look better if I did this. It's wonders what happens when you design in a system like this. It's just very easy to see these little improvements. One other thing we're going to do is we're going to change the color of the download button. So got that selected. We're going to go into the background. And we'll change the background fill to, we'll make that like a green. Not like a lime green though, more like this kind of forest green color. A bit more like that. Okay. Now we want to make sure that when they click the button, they can actually download the report. So for this, we are going to go into, again, button, element properties. In the button settings, you can choose the button mode. And because we just cloned this one over, where the button was submitting a form, you can see it's still set to the submit type. We are going to change that to download. And now you can provide a file that when someone clicks it, the button, they will just download that file. So we'll select the file. And again, you can see I've got a file in here already, but I'm going to delete that so you can see how the upload process works. So yeah, we'll just get rid of that. And again, I'm just taking my file that I've got on my desktop here. Just going to drag it on. And you can see it's there now uploading. Now you can put on PDFs, docs. I think you can have MP3s, anything like that. The main limit is that the individual files need to be less than 40 megabytes to use Convertri's delivery system like this. Now that's going to cover pretty much everything. But if you do have a file that's bigger that you want to attach, you can still do that. You'll just need to use like a separate web host, something like S3, and then just add the link to that file to the download button. And then that will function exactly the same. So we will select this file. Now there is an option here that everyone asks about on all of these calls, so I'll just go through it. Now that is force download on click. And what this does, if we switch this on, some browsers, when they click a button like this that's connected to a file, by default, some of them, they won't download the file, they'll just open it in the browser, so the user can flick through it there. And they'll still have a download option because the browser will provide one when they're viewing like the PDF. But some people prefer to not let the browser do that. Even if the browser would do that by default, they would rather that their user downloaded the file onto their machine. If you want that to happen, then you can toggle this on, and Convertri will make that happen. It's not something personally, it's not something I'm particularly worried about, so I'm going to leave it off. So again, we have our page. Privacy policy is still there, and that's still fine. That's still connected because we cloned the page over. And we'll check the mobile view. Now again, Convertri's made an automatic mobile version with the elements that are on the page. But because there's not very much content on this page, the mobile versions come out quite small. So this one I do want to change. I do want to give it a bit more space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down this bottom panel. And I'm going to extend the backing image there. And again, just dragging it down to about the size I want. And now I'll just position this panel so it's a bit more central. The actual elements inside, but I think they're fine. It's more just about the size of the page when someone opens it up. So we'll save that. And now we have our page pretty much complete. So what we need to do now is get it live. And we're going to do that by clicking the Publish button in the top right corner here. And we're going to call it as demo2/thank you. And see, this will publish at basically the domain I've got it on, neil.convertri.com / whatever I put in here. So in this case, neil.convertri.com/demo2/thank you. And you can see the full link it's going to be available at the bottom of this box here. Now we'll click Publish. Now you don't have to wait at all for your page to be live, there's no holding period. You can see we just hit the Publish button. We've got the View Page button appear up here. We click that, and there it is. We are live on the internet. So the final thing we need to do to get this funnel entirely up and working is to connect the form. First thing we're going to do with this is we are going to take an arrow from that arrow button on the opt-in page, and we're just going to connect it to the thank you page like that. So now these two pages are connected. Move around the thank you page, you can see the arrow goes with it. Now what this does is tells Convertri that if someone opts in here, we probably want them to go here. So now if we go back into our opt-in page, we connect the form, we will click on Forms in the top bar up here. And I'm going to connect this form through an autoresponder API. I'm going to use MailChimp because that's the autoresponder I've got connected to this account. But the process for all of these is exactly the same. So whether you use GetResponse or Aweber or ActiveCampaign, you'll be doing exactly the same thing. First thing we do is choose the list we want to sign it into, or sign people up to. We've got our basic test list that we use for these demonstrations. Next, we assign the types to the different form fields. And basically what this is doing is we set a type on an autoresponder field. Convertri will look for the input with the same type, like that's on the page, and like whatever your prospect enters in there, when the form is submitted, it'll add it into whatever autoresponder field matches. So here we've got the first name type and the email type. Email is fixed because MailChimp doesn't let you use anything else for that. And we'll click next. And because we've already published our thank you page, because we've connected it using the arrow in the funnel builder, we've automatically got the URL of our thank you page in here. We don't have to use that. We can type in whatever we want. And if we had arrows to more than one page, then all of these would be listed in the suggestions box. So we'll click that as done. Now we just need to go into these inputs here, go into the form field settings, and this is just checking that the types are set correctly on here. You remember we had in our original form, we had the first name type assigned to the first name field. So we want to make sure that our first name input also has the first name type, which it does, so that's fine. And we'll make that required. And we'll do the same thing with email. That's pre-required, and we've got the validation type set to email address. So we'll save that, and we will hit publish. And we'll call that demo2/opt-in. So again, page is published. We've got the view page button. That is now live. Let's say 6 megabyte image. You can see how fast, that loads because of the optimization we do, which is why you can afford to use such high quality images. And this funnel is now entirely live. You can go to this page if you want. You can test it out. You can stick your details in there. You'll be signed up to the test list, and then you'll be redirected to the thank you page where you'll be able to download the lead magnet. So that is the full setup for the funnel. Before we move on to Dan's section, does anyone have any questions about what you've just seen? Robert's asking, where are the training videos? Another excellent question. We have a full knowledge base. They are at help.convertri.com. I'll show you it on here as well, but you can also access that directly through the editor. You can see we've got this help button on the far right of this purple bar. And if you click that, you can click the Convertri knowledge base. You'll be directed immediately there. That's also got the link to our Facebook group. It's got the link to our support email. And there's also like the intro video for the editor that gives you like a whistle-stop tour of the most important stuff. The knowledge base itself, again, if go to help.convertri.com, I'll just copy that and I'll stick that in the chat box for you so everyone can see it. Now you see there's quite a range of training videos here on a load of different topics. See, there's like 60 different articles on the editor. So there's one like how to add a countdown timer. These have like an article, sometimes have screenshots when they're needed. There's also a video walkthrough. You'll find that on most of the articles here. We also have in here some training webinars, and this is also where we keep all the recordings of this webinar that have happened in the past. We keep all these in here as well, so you can go back, you can review them whenever you want. Let's say this call is being recorded, that will go in here as well. That'll be added in probably by the end of the week, certainly Monday at the latest. but there's quite a yeah, there's quite a lot of collection there. Ronnie's asking, can you show how to make an offer and hook up with PayPal? I can run you through the product setup process. I can show you how the PayPal integration connects. I don't have PayPal integrated on this account, but I can give you a run through of how it works. Got another question. Does Convertri do quizzes and surveys? We don't have a specific quiz module. You can build simple ones using the actions and events system. Basically, that will let you add a question to a layer and let people move through your survey. Actually, getting a more robust quiz and survey system into Convertri is something that I'm looking at the moment. I've been scoping up a possible new feature where you'll be able to more easily construct these things and save the answers, and eventually, hopefully, do smart things like redirect people down different survey paths. That's a little way away yet, but it is kind of in development. Yeah, Ronnie, we try and have training videos for pretty much everything. There's normally we put features out fairly regularly. There's normally a couple of weeks delay between a feature coming out and a help video appearing. But we do try and keep up with all the new stuff. So you're going to find videos on pretty much everything. Okay, I think we are ready to hand over to Dan so he can show you some of the cool stuff that the editor can do. So, Dan, you good to go?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Neil. I'm ready when you are.
Cool. And I guess I will hand you over to Dan, and then I say will be come back to me for the Q&A session. Dan will deal with any questions about his part. So again, if you have them, do just stick them in the chat. He'll be answering them on the way through. And any general questions about Convertri, I will hang around for as long as you have questions or until my voice gives out. After that's done. So let's okay. All right. There we go.
Let's see if we can get this on. Great, okay, so can everyone hear me and can everyone see my screen? There should be a getting started webinar funnel with the editor hacks page. Okay, we've got a yes from John. Can everyone else see and hear me all right? Cool, okay, so we're going to go into the page now. I'm just going to show you a few really cool things that you can do in the editor that are going to save you a lot of time and effort when you're building your pages out. So we've got a Convertri template page here. And as you can see, it's fully built out, got a menu, the about, some testimonials all the way down to the contact us section at the bottom. The first thing I'd suggest doing is turning on these element outline guidelines, and what that's going to do is allow you to just see where each element starts and ends and the outline of that. That's going to make it easy when you're trying to select an element. So without them turned on, you might go to select the coffee text box and click here, and what you're actually going to get is the panel that's containing it all. So with them on, you know that the coffee starts here and ends here, so you can select that and it's going to bring that up for you. So I definitely switch those on when you're going into the editor to start playing around with your pages. It just makes things a lot easier. So let's say on this page in particular, we wanted to get rid of this menu section here. instead of actually choosing each individual element like the food items and the pricing, what we can do is select the backing panel that's containing it all. So as you can see, I've clicked here in the space, which is the black panel, and then going to go up to this delete bin here. And if I click that, it's going to get rid of everything contained within it, nice and easily for you, so you don't actually have to go through and delete them all one by one. So if I just undo that, you can actually do it as well by using the backspace key. So if I click it again, and then I've hit my backspace and it's gone. So now we've got this big white space here where we can either add something else to the page or we can close it up. Now I've shown you how to do that. We are going to want to get rid of this white space in this instance. So instead of actually moving each element up on its own, we've got this really nice, cool feature where if you select the element below the white space, so again, I've selected the backing panel for this about section, and then you're going to go up here to remove the white space above. And once you click that, it's going to snap up to the next element above it. So in this case, it's the panel for the next section above. And now we've got rid of that white space there. So the page is looking a lot tidier. So now I've shown you how to actually tidy the page and remove the space. Let's have a look at how we can make some more space on a page. So imagine you wanted to add another section, let's say where the menu section was. Instead of moving each element like so and having to drag each one down like that, what we can actually do is just click this element here that we want to move down, press Shift on our keyboard, and then drag it down. And what that's going to do is going to move not only this element we selected, but it's going to move the whole page down. So as you can see, the page is shifted. We haven't had to move each element on the page individually. And that's given us now this nice space here where we can actually add something else to the page. So say you wanted to add like a smaller menu and we've just deleted that old one, you can put that in there now. So I'm going to close that back up just for demo purposes. But that was the shift drag, and it moves everything down the page as we go. So I'm going to now show you another keyboard shortcut, and that is actually the cloning shortcut. So you can do this here by using this button here. If I select that element and click clone, that's going to duplicate it out. But if you want to do that easily, you can click the element, hold Alt on your keyboard, and then just drag it like so. And that's going to make a copy of the element. So let's do that for all three of these testimonial images, and you can see we've got copies for all of those now. That's another nice keyboard shortcut we've got there. So now I'm going to show you the alignments tool, which in this case, seeing as we've got these images jumbled about a bit, we're going to use this as an example. So what we're going to want to do first is add a panel, and that is going to make all of these elements contained within it. So stretch it out like so. Let's just move this in a little bit first, and then we're going to send it to the back using this little button here, and then bring it forward so that we can see that it's behind all of these images. So now we've done this, all of these images are actually contained within the panel. So if we want to edit these images so that they're all nicely lined up together, we could do it by manually and use our eyes, but that's going to take a lot longer. Although we've got these snap lines, it's just a lot harder to do that and make sure they're all perfectly done. So while they're messed up, we can select the panel and come up here, and then we're going to click middle align, and it's going to place them nicely in the middle of the backing panel there. And then justify horizontally is going to space them out equally. So as you can see, in between each image, we've got exactly the same amount of space here. And that's just going to make everything look a lot neater on the page. So we're going to get rid of this panel now, and you can do this instead. If I wanted to move it, usually it would move everything in between like so. But if I want to move it just the panel, if I press the Windows key, or I think it's Command for Mac users. I haven't got a Mac myself, but I think it's Command. And you drag that up, holding that, it's going to move out like so. So then when we've moved it away, we can just delete it, and it will get rid of that by itself. So the last thing that I'm going to show you is probably the most important thing when you're building pages in Convertri, and it's just how to get a page so that it mobilizes well. So what this is going to do is going to save you a lot of time and effort when you're actually turning your desktop page into your mobile page. If you can build it out so that it will remobilize nice and smoothly, that's just going to mean you're going to have to make a lot less edits when you're on the mobile editor, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you. So if we go over to the mobile page now, you'll see that unlike on the desktop page, bread, pastry and coffee, they're actually back to back, and the text info comes below. So instead of it going bread and then the info for the bread one, and then pastry with the info, coffee with the info, etc., it's got them split. Now the reason that is because when Convertri is actually reading it for the mobile editor, it comes along and it reads from left to right and top to bottom. So it's going to hit this logo element first, and then hit the we are open element, and then the image element, and it's going to place them in that order. So you'll see that logos at the top, we are open is next, and then followed by the image. And similarly for the headings, because they're on the same line, it's hitting bread first, then pastry, and then coffee. And what that means is they're coming in as a group, as well as the text coming in as a group. So it doesn't really read the best for your users if you come here and it's separated like this. So what we actually want to get is it to be bread and then the text underneath. And we can actually do that by putting a container in, and that's because the mobile algorithm understands containment. So if we do this and put a panel behind bread, and we're going to just make sure that it's only containing, only containing these two elements, like so. And then again, as with the testimonials, we'll send that to back and bring it forward so it's behind it. Now we go to the mobile, and you can see it's contained that both of them within it. So in this case, we've got bread now and then the text. And if we was to do that for all of them, it would do the same thing. And that's just going to make it look a lot nicer for your users, and you haven't had to edit anything manually there. So when you're building pages, it's important to remember about containment. And if you want a group of elements to display together on mobile, just put that backing panel behind them, and then that will produce them all on mobile in the same way. So if we do this for all three, like so, send to back, bring forward, and then onto the mobile view, you can see that we've got them now nicely arranged so that it reads a lot better. And you haven't had to actually make any changes there. The mobile editor's done all that for you. So you can see why it's a lot quicker and easier if you're building out a page to keep the mobile view in mind from the get-go. And then we'll just show you one other way that that's useful with the social icons here. So as you can see at the moment, we've got our Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, and we want them really to be horizontally displayed like as they are on the mobile page, on the desktop page. If we go down to them on the mobile page, you'll actually see that they're vertical. And I mean, it's not the biggest issue, but we want it to be consistent with this layout here and how it's all horizontally spread out. So the address is along horizontally. It's not like 345 and then vertically Cappuccino Street. So we want to make it look consistent all the way. So again, it's going to be doing the same trick. It's going to be a panel. We don't want it to go all the way up there. We want it to come down here. So if we drag that on, and then we place it like this behind. And one thing to be aware of here is we're going to do the same principle, but we need to make sure that it's under 300 pixels in width. And that's because it's the maximum size for a mobile screen. So if it was anything bigger than that, it would display that as horizontally, as vertically, sorry, as there is already. So because it's 287, if we go to the mobile now, that's displayed them horizontally like that. If we were to go back and make that, say, 350, it's going to change it back and display it vertically, which we don't want in this case. So we're going to make it below 300, and that's going to keep it nice and ordered for us, as you can see there. So that is the editor hacks. for you. So has anyone got any questions on any of that before we hand back to Neil for the more general Q&A? Oh, you're very welcome, John. It's my pleasure. Robert's asking, can we save that panel? Now, what do you mean by that? Sorry, Robert, do you mean that the whole section of the page? Right, I see. Yeah, save a section. So yeah, if you go into the general properties, you can create a collection here. So what you need to do is select the backing panel that you actually want to save, and then create collection as so. And then you can add some folders in like this. I'm just going to put it in the home folder, and so we just save that as test. That will save this now, so that on another page you can add that for later use, as you say. Any other questions about the demo before we go back to Neil? Awesome. Okay, thanks for listening to that, guys. I'm going to pass you back over to Neil now. And there we go.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks very much, Dan.
No problem.
Okay, Robert, did that answer your question? Fine. So clicking the backing panel of the collection of the section, creating a collection, and then being able to add that. Like you can then get that from the elements toolbar. You can add that onto any page you want. Yes, awesome. Thank you. Okay, now I recall we had a question earlier about shared headers and footers. So I'm going to give you a quick demo of that. While I'm doing that, if anyone has any other questions, do feel free to stick them into the chat. And I will get to them when we've done with this bit. So every funnel in Convertri has a header and footer section. So here you can see that I've got a like some old demo material in there at the moment. But you can have a master header and a master footer, and they can be added to all of your pages within the funnel. And so if we switch on, we'll just go into the page. And we go into the page settings, and then headers and footers. You can switch on the header or the footer, like both or neither, for any page. So if we switch on the header, you can see this has added our master header to the page, which it's just very basic at the moment. Like I've just stuck this little image in there, but you can add things like menus, you can add links, and then just update the header once, and they will be changed across every page. So we've got our header in here, and we'll just save that page. And if you remember there, you got the little sparrow on the left. I'm going to go into the thank you page in the same funnel. We're going to add the header here as well. And so you can see at the moment, it's got the same header. We'll just click into edit. So we can edit the header rather than the main page. And I'm just going to shift the sparrow to the center. And we'll save that. And now if we go back into our opt-in page, which is the other page using that header, then you can see those adjustments are just carried through. So you can do exactly the same thing on the page footer. You can edit the header or footer on any page, and those changes that you make will be carried through to every other page in the funnel, so you just have to republish them. John's saying, can you please talk about page analytics? I definitely can. So we have, to start out at a bit of a higher level, we have the funnel analytics for Convertri. You can click them in here, and you can see these are like page views, prospects, and revenue throughout the last month. And now this is like, there's nothing on this one because this is just a demo account. I don't use it for any like actual stuff. But you can switch between the page views, the prospects, and the revenue that you've made. This will be across every page in the entire funnel. On the individual pages, we can't actually see it on this one because this is a fresh page that no one's been to yet. But if we had driven some traffic to this page, then we would be able to click that button there, and we would be able to see who had clicked what link on the page. Like we'd be able to see how much traffic had come in and what the conversion rate on each link was, and we could decide whether or not those links counted towards the overall conversion tally of the page. Let me just see if I've got anything on this. So that's a pretty basic one. But you can see this is a page which is not performing particularly well at all. But you can see that on this page, there's been 140 visitors come in, only one person signed up, but you can see all the different links on the page, and you can switch them on or off to decide which of these links actually count toward the conversion tally. Robert's asking, does Convertri still have the website import feature? Yes, we do. If you go to, in the funnel here, if you go to import page, then there is an option here for import from an external URL. So you can take the URL of any page that you own, stick it in there, and then you can hit the import button, and Convertri will scan that page, and it will create as close a copy as it can within the Convertri editor. It's pretty good. There's always going to be some little changes you'll need to do to it, because like this process, like taking it from one system, putting it into another, the translation is never going to be absolutely perfect. But normally it's just a matter of like adjusting a couple of text boxes here and there. Like it's definitely an awful lot faster than like rebuilding the entire page from scratch. But yes, that is still available and still very popular. Robert's asking, where does pixel and analytics code go? There's actually a few options for this. Just let me take another swig of water. I'll run through them. Now, the idea is basically the same in all cases, but Convertri provides a range of different levels you can add stuff to. So I'll show you how it works at the page level. So first, I'm just going to switch off this header. So on our page here, if we wanted to add a pixel to this page, or if we wanted to add something like Google Tag Manager, then if we go into the page menu and we go to custom scripts down here, then we see we set at the page level. We can click add page script. And here is where you can add in whatever code you want. So you give it a name, like FB Pixel as an example. You can give it a description if you want. Like obviously in this case, like FB Pixel, it's a Facebook pixel. You don't really need to give it a description. But if it was a bit more complicated, then you could do that. You can set whether or not the script goes in the body or the head of the page, and then you just copy your code, stick it in this box here, and hit save. And once you've republished your page, your script will then be active. So you can add all your code there. That will just go on that individual page. You can also add it at higher levels. You can add it at the funnel level. So that script will go on every page in the funnel. You can add it at the domain level. So it'll go on every page on that domain. Or you can add it at the account level, which is what we do for the most part of the analytics stuff. So it'll just automatically be on every page on your account when you publish it. So the scripts at the funnel level, you'll find them in the left-hand bar here. So click on scripts and again, add funnel script. And again, it's a very, very similar process to on the page. Add the name, add the description, choose whether it goes in the body or the head, and enter the code into the box there. The run on page load toggle, that is, I mean, it's pretty much what it says on the tin. You can decide whether or not you want the script to run automatically when a page loads or not. You might turn that off, for example, if there were scripts that you need to get consent to run, like with GDPR and so on. You could switch that off. So the script was there, but it didn't automatically run, and then connect the script to a button on the page. So when the user has given your consent or their consent, at that point, the script runs. Can we use multiple domains in one Convertri account? Yes, you can. You can set up, if you go to account up here, and there's domains in the left. So you can have up to 3 Convertri subdomains. So you can see there's a few on there at the moment. And a Convertri subdomain will basically be like whatever you want, .convertri.com. You can also add up to 10 custom domains. You can do that through either of these methods, either using a CNAME or using our name servers. We're set up for both. If you have an agency account, then I believe you can go up to 100 custom domains. Standard and pro accounts, you can have 10. But every account type does let you have multiple. You're never limited to like just the one. You can also have, once you've got a root custom domain added to your Convertri account, you can have as many subdomains of that domain as you want. So if you've got like yourname.com like attached to Convertri, you can also have like subdomain 1.yourname.com, subdomain 2.yourname.com, subdomain 3.yourname.com, and they don't count against your limit. Like it's just the base custom domain that counts toward the 10. Yes, PayPal. I did say I would show you how to do that. Again, I don't have PayPal integrated on this account, so I can't like show you the entire thing, but I can give you a run through of basically how it works. So the first thing you need to do is in integrations, you can see we've got the payment processors here. You'd need to set up PayPal. So you get your client ID and your secret key from your PayPal account. The sandbox is the one you use for testing, and then live is obviously the one you use to take live payments. So you'd enter that information in there and hit save. You would then be able to set up products. in the cart. Now I've got my one little demo product set up here, named after the single that is the greatest album that has ever been recorded. That's not a debate we're having. You can create a new one by we'll name this one after the second greatest album that's ever been recorded. So you can enter your product name, you can set up the price, so say $18. You can say whether or not it's recurring. You can attach things like autoresponders and webinars to the product. So that's a bit of an advanced topic. It's basically having someone automatically added to a list when the product is bought rather than setting up through the Convertri page. But you can just create that product. And when you have PayPal integrated, once you've set up a checkout button on your Convertri page, which again I'll show you how to do. So this is currently a submit button. If we change that to the checkout type, that would then open the modal checkout when it gets clicked. So your user would click that and then it would pop up with a ready-made checkout form. And when you have PayPal integrated, PayPal would automatically be there as an option. So people will be able to buy through PayPal. The sale would be recorded on your Convertri account. You get the money into your PayPal account. And that's, yeah, that is basically how it works. I appreciate that's not, like I would have preferred to be able to give you a more like actual walkthrough demo, but I don't have the stuff set up on this account. So I hope that gives you like enough of an idea to see how it works. Yes, that purchasing customer can be added to an autoresponder when someone does that. When they buy through PayPal, just like when they buy through Stripe or credit card, any other method, like if we had, like we've got our form set up on this page at the moment. If someone purchased with this form set up, they would just be added to the autoresponder automatically. You can also set it up at the product level, as we just saw. So you can have them added to like an autoresponder automatically on purchase that way. And if you want, you can have these set up as different lists. Like you can have one list set up specifically on the product. You can have a separate list set up on the page, and your user or your buyer will just be added to both of them. Yeah, the sign up would happen automatically on purchase. That's great. Good luck with it. I didn't save it, so I've still got my header here. Okay, do we have any other questions? Cool, that's great. Thanks, John. Thanks, Rob. I'm really glad you found it useful. Sorry, Jose, do you want to know if Convertri can send gift cards? Yeah, maybe Ronnie. Possibly we should put a mask on her. Mind you, I mean, she seems to be social distancing pretty well. Like, there's no one's within 2 meters of her, so I think she's probably all right. Oh, right, selling gift cards. I see no reason why not. We don't have an automatic fulfillment system set up, so you'd need to track that kind of thing manually. But I don't see any reason why you couldn't set up that kind of thing. So an order came into Convertri, and then you could fulfill them manually after that. You could also, we do have a Zapier integration. So if you've got a fulfillment house that connects with Zapier, then you could wire up our checkout to them, and then have the fulfillment managed that way. So yeah, I don't see why that would be a problem. Robert's asking what the best way to get help is. The first port of call, I would always go to the Facebook group. That is basically, we've got a group on Facebook called the Convertri Clubhouse. Again, there's a link to that in the editor. So if you go to help, you can see there's a Convertri Facebook group link. We approve people for it basically every weekday morning. And just to give some context on that, it's we're in the UK, so it's every morning UK time. And that's got, I think there's about 6,000 people in it now. Most of them are Convertri users. So if you've got, if there's something you're not sure how to do, then people there are generally very happy to help. I'm in there quite a lot. Dan's in there quite a lot. But to be honest, our other users often answer the questions faster than we get to them, because they're really a very helpful bunch like that. If you've got a more complicated query, if it's something where we're going to have a look at the specific page, how check out your setup, that kind of thing. In that case, it's probably best to email support@convertri.com, which again, the link is in the editor there, and then one of the team can have a look at what's going on. Actually, one thing we also have, if you're if you're starting out and just want to get a general idea of how Convertri works, we have a course we put together. And again, this is this is entirely free. It's just up there. Let's just get the address of that for you. That's the one. So we've got this course on how to use Convertri. So say using the templates, the editor basics. There's PDF walkthroughs, there's video walkthroughs, just guides on exercises that walk you through how to use the editor. So I'll just stick that link in the chat as well. And this is linked in the resources section of the app, which you can find. If we just leave this, we go back to the account, and then resources. Then there's a few little guides to help you get started here, and the Convertri crash course is there right at the top. Okay, any more questions from anyone? Okay, I think that that looks like it then. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. I do hope it was useful. Obviously, if there was anything else you'd like to ask, if there was anything I missed, then do feel free to go into the Facebook group, email support. We'll do what we can to sort everything out. But I hope you found this useful. I hope you're a bit more confident in getting started. And yeah, thanks very much for your time. Okay, cool. Thanks very much, everyone. Like I say, this is being recorded. The replay will go into the knowledge base probably by the end of the week, certainly by Monday. And if you want to come to another, we'll be doing it again in 2 weeks' time. Cheers all.
Thanks, guys.